Okay, here come 75 more people.
Woo!
Hello.
That was very exciting. Andrew goes, here comes 75 more people, and here you all go, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, we're up to 77 now. How good is that? Hi, everyone. Hello. So you will all have seen the link to the mural page, but if you haven't already, a link will be put in the chat in just a second.
It's already there.
Great. I'm going to give you all 5 seconds to say hi and wave to each other, and then I'm going to mute everyone except me, Joe, and Rosie. So now's the time to shout hi into the microphone as loudly as you can.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello. Hiya. It's such a smiley bunch.
That was nice.
It was, yeah. Come on, computer.
I'm so nosy. I love seeing other people's work from home setups.
I have to keep disguising them.
For my Google Home to decide to set off an alarm, but right. Okay. Whew. Rosie is unmuted. Joe is unmuted. Hi, everyone. Has everyone got over to the mural? Have a look in the chat, and I'll pass you over to Joe to introduce this session.
Maybe. Oh, I posted the link too early. So hang on a sec. So today we're using, we're mostly using Zoom just for the audio. So we're using a site called Mural, which is like an online virtual whiteboard. The idea being that you can all add to it, play with it, and yeah, add your thoughts. So what we've planned for the format of this is that the three of us, oh, look at you all, little anonymous animals flying around. It's very weird.
I think this is because we all missed the flip chart and post-its, which are an integral part of SU life.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is as close as we can get to it.
Oh, yes. So the idea is that everyone can go and see that there. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've put there. I should stress, we decided to do this 1 working day ago. So this is not the slickest of productions. I mean, I speak for myself there. Maybe Andrew and Rosie are infinitely slicker than I am. But yes, so this is very much work in progress. This is a collaborative thing. Please help us by popping your ideas on there as well. So as I said, Mural is a collaborative whiteboard. It's free for 30 days initially, and then you can pay them. Or another option, if this works for you, is called Miro, M-I-R-O. So that's another option to give it a try if this sort of format works. And just in case you wanted to know, this also has the option to vote on things. So we won't be using it today, but if you're using it with your teams, people can, you can assign people a certain number of, it's like when you stick stickers onto real post-it notes. So that's another option if you're kind of doing planning or gathering ideas with your team. I've put some brief instructions on there for you, but you can just try it out and see how things go. You might want to wait till after we've finished to add stuff, but go for it. But yeah, you'll probably want to get used to zooming in and moving around. You can switch, it has 2 options. One is trackpad, so designed for if you're using a tablet or something with a touch screen. The other option is easier if you're on a desktop. So we had a kind of brain dump this morning where we were talking about this idea of student awards, and this applies to both kind of student opportunities awards for your volunteers, sports teams, and also to, it's like this weird swarm of things on people. It's very weird to look at. But also to things like student-led teaching awards. So hopefully it's broadly applicable. So what we've done is we've highlighted what we think the aims of those types of awards are. So that's to so that people feel their efforts and achievement have been recognised, that people think I've done a good thing and other people have seen I've done a good thing, and I feel a warm fuzzy feeling that people have noticed. We also think it's an opportunity to communicate the union's achievements and expertise and contribution to the university.
Sorry, I just moved your aim.
That's fine. It's fine, Rosie. Go for it. And we also think it's a good opportunity for students to be interested and excited, and for you to showcase and share that with them and have some kind of communal experience, which is hard when you can't see people in person and everyone's spread around the world. I'm just going to make a little request. If you are not doing anything in particular, if you move your mouse off the whiteboard to one of the edges and leave it still, it won't be quite so frenetic for people to watch. I know you're all very excited, and by all means do click on things and add some notes, but yeah, let's not go too wild too early. So we've had a look through at some of these bits. Rosie, do you want to start off by talking about this idea of what to do before you actually plan your event?
Yeah, that's fine. I went to an online fundraising conference yesterday, and the first session of that, which, by the way, if any of you have any interest in fundraising, not just student fundraising, but the fundraising sector, it's called Fundraising Everywhere, and they do loads of cool stuff. And it was free, and all the content is available and recorded. And the first session of that was with someone from Charity Comms, and she basically was talking about how they have moved their entire event portfolio pretty much online. And one of her first points, which I thought was really important to bring up, was about not necessarily just duplicating everything as an online event. You don't have to. You can postpone stuff, but obviously the tricky bit about postponing at the moment is that we don't know when we can postpone to, or you can just cancel it and do something in a different way. So on the there's a little purple bit sort of in the middle of the whiteboard where we've written, before you plan your event online, is it, do you need to do it? Could it be cancelled? Could it be postponed? And if you could cancel it, is there a different way of doing something? And we've made a resource that's going to come out next week, and I'm going to put it on the Organised Fun website about different ways to reward and recognise your volunteers. So that's useful anyway, even if you are saying, yes, we still want to go ahead with our awards, we still want to do something, but we'll do it online. But there's also other ways, and particularly at the moment when you're probably experiencing lots of volunteers, sort of, you can't really see them and you're not getting the engagement that you were getting before, thinking about rewarding and recognising them is going to be really important, and awards are just one way of doing that. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
Thanks. So sorry everyone, I've gone a bit dictatorial and switched off your ability to edit, so you can't touch anything at the moment, but I will switch on afterwards so you can add your thoughts. You can also talk. There's a chat option. You might need to click one of the icons at the top of the screen. That's two little speech bubbles. So there is a chat in Mural rather than in Zoom. So there's have a think about what you want to do. Don't necessarily rush to try and recreate the same experience that you would do in person, offline. I ran a session the other day about delivering services online and how to approach that. So that's linked on Mural as well. So you could perhaps go and have a look at that. And in fact, actually used awards as an example to think, do I need to do that? Am I trying to recreate it, or are there other options? So then if we come over to the left of the Mural, and like I said, you might need to zoom in and drag the board around so that you can see the right bits. If we're thinking about what are the options to replace the event, there are loads of options, which in a way it's that good problem to have of kind of very different things I could do, what's important. So the main kind of variables, I guess, are you going to run some live event? Are you going to announce things in real time and have your winners, and kind of, is it all happening then? Are you doing something that's not live? Maybe you're pre-recording things, maybe you're just uploading things to social media, or do you want to do a combination? So you can mix and match, you can do different components. And also, when we do things traditionally and we do everything all at once, that's kind of the standard thing. We run through all the categories, but you've also now, this gives you the opportunity to spread those out. So perhaps you'll do a different category every day for a week, or maybe you normally do all your sport and society awards at the same event, but you want to split them up. You have got some flexibility, which might help with trying to kind of manage expectation and deliver something with capacity. So yeah, as Rosie said, she sat through the BAFTA Games Awards, and I only just clocked how dapper that person looks. I think everyone should be. We should have made everyone dress up for this. We should have gone awards themed. But yeah, Rosie, do you want to talk through some of the different channels that are available?
Yeah, so I had a day of attending online things yesterday. So in the afternoon, attended the Fundraising Everywhere conference, which I mentioned earlier. But this is then I also noticed when Googling for this session online awards, one of the things that came up conveniently was that BAFTA were holding their Games Awards last night. And as the nerd that I am, I was like, well, that will be useful for our session tomorrow. And watched some of it, not a lot of it, because I'm not that into gaming. But it was really good. To say that I don't really know the content, like I don't really know many of the games apart from one or two. And what I've done in this bottom corner in the blue is there's a link to an article, I think it's on Forbes, to like a summary of the Games Awards, which is how I found that they were happening. And it gives you like a nice little bit of preamble about the context of the event, and they're one of the first big awards to go online. And obviously if the games industry can't do it, then there's no hope for the rest of us. So and I was like, if this is rubbish, then I'm worried. Because one of the things that I'm in the process of redesigning right now is the National Societies and Volunteering Awards. So I'm in a similar situation to you. It was supposed to be an in-person, now it can't be, and now we need to think of something jazzy and fun to do. So attended that, and then started off on Twitch, which I'm sure some of you know is a platform used by gamers, often for streaming game content. So that was the first platform that I used, and it was good, a little bit distracting with some of the bits going on the side. And then I realised that they were also streaming it on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and on PlayStation 4 network. I didn't go on PS4 because I didn't want to go and turn our PS4 on and stuff. But I watched it on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch and Facebook. And I've just done a screen grab of each of those platforms and what it looked like for the viewer or the participant. And the only one I would say that I wouldn't recommend is Twitter from those four, is that it just wasn't as interactive. You didn't get the chat bar near the video content, whereas with all the other three you had a chat bar next to or underneath. On Facebook and YouTube you can do the interactions in terms of like likes and thumbs up, thumbs down, and so to be honest they were really interactive, all of them. And the way they put it together is just how you'd put together a kind of usual award ceremony. So you had someone talking for a bit, which was Dara O'Brien, the comedian, wearing his tux there, and he had which was just a screen behind him, a normal projector screen, which was saying what the award was. And then for every award it showed you a tiny bit of video content of that game, which obviously is easier for games industry than for what we do, the nominees, and a little bit of a taste of what each category was about, and then Dara announced the winner. And then what they'd done is, I don't know whether they'd got everybody to pre-record a winner's speech, but what they had was pre-recorded winner's speeches from people in their living rooms and in their offices, because everybody's on lockdown now, from all over the world, because lots of these games are developed not in the UK. And so the bottom left hand side one is just showing you like how simple that was. It wasn't fancy. It looked just like we look now talking to you, of someone saying thank you and what it meant to them to win that award. And then people were obviously like in the chat guessing who was going to win, and then being happy or annoyed that it wasn't their favourite game. And it was really interactive. And even though I didn't particularly know any of the games, I ended up watching it for about half an hour and finding it fun and interesting, and relieved that you could do something that felt like an awards event, that looked enough like an awards event that we know, that actually pretty low budget, what they put together didn't need to cost a lot of money. Obviously we can't all get a famous comedian to present our awards, but you could get one of your sabbatical officers or a couple of your sabbatical officers to do it, and you could get each of them you could jump between them. I'm sure you've all got kind of minor celebrities associated with your SUs, so find someone who's at home and who could do you a favour. And the rest of it is all quite simple in terms of the actual awards event if you wanted to do it like that. And I think it was the bit that I took away from it, because I was thinking for the National Societies and Volunteering Awards that we'll do it all live, but actually having some of that pre-recorded content was useful, because it meant that you knew it was there, it was ready. You could screen it before to make sure no one's saying anything heavily inappropriate, because obviously you don't want to have to like just turn them off. And you could check that the lengths were right, so you can plan that the event's going to take the right amount of time. And also for the Fundraising Everywhere conference, they had a mixture yesterday of live content of the presenters kind of talking you through what was going to happen, but then each training session was pre-recorded, but then the trainer joined at the end, so their pre-recorded session was shown to you as participants, and then the trainer joined at the end to answer questions live. And I thought that was a really good use of like a mixture of live and not live content. So yeah, happy to answer any questions about that, but I've pretty much told you everything I know about what I saw last night.
Cool. So if we head over to the middle, I've discovered I've got a button. I can summon you, apparently.
What?
I have a summon everyone button, which is very exciting. If everyone's curses are making you dizzy, you can find yourself, your avatar at the bottom of the screen, and click on it, and then you can hide everyone's curses. If it's making you feel a bit seasick. Yeah, thanks Andrew for spotting that. So I'm going to come over to the middle to the things to talk about section. So this is just some things to consider that might help you decide what format works best for you. So in terms of, regardless of whether you're doing something in real time or pre-recorded or a mix, you've got different options in terms of visuals. So we've talked about using video, and that can be live or pre-recorded, but you can also just use kind of images, GIFs, animations. You can just, you could just present like a PowerPoint session with a screen share. It doesn't have to be something super fancy. I think everyone understands these are not normal conditions. So, don't panic. You've got this, you can do this. And think about what you have the capacity to do, what staff time's available, what technical resources. It's all well and good to say, like, we'll beam people in from around the world and they'll just drop in for their session. But what if someone's internet cuts out, or someone, like, they haven't got kind of suitable lighting, or access to reliable Wi-Fi. So don't overstretch yourself, I would say. You've also got the option to repurpose your content. So if you do live stream things, you can then use that as a video replay, or you could chop it up and use little sections of it to say, look at all our sports awards, or look at this department's awards. If you are using slides to reveal things, you could record that then with a voiceover later. So that's one way to kind of make more of the same amount of work. And just thinking about the awards themselves, if you are having people making announcements, do they have the setup? Check in with people about what they feel confident with as well. If you're having speeches, how are you going to allow winners to make speeches? How are you going to handle that? Obviously, you've got to bear in mind, if you're pre-recording that or pre-announcing any of those things, you're going to want, presumably, to tell them to keep it a secret. so they don't, it's no massive spoilers and the kind of tension and drama's gone, unless you don't mind and you want them to be able to reveal it to people. That's also another option. Why not, get them to do a video chat with their group and, record everyone's excitement. Just kind of bear those things in mind. And Rosie talked about kind of interaction as an attendee. Is that something that you want? Are you going to have your nominees chatting? Are you going to do like a Zoom call with people from a particular category? Do you want them to be able to chat with each other? Do you want your attendees to be able to chat? Or would you rather do a kind of more like webinar-y type format where only one person is sharing their screen or kind of has video or sound? Think about those. And then I've just kind of reminded everyone that there are different stages to your awards. So you might want to do different things for each of those. So maybe you're going to announce your shortlist via a Facebook album. But you're going to reveal the winners in a live stream. You've got different options that allow you to be a bit flexible and also to play with the timing a bit, because you don't have to, send off 300 dietary requirements to your venue or, worry about necessarily getting your trophies engraved. It gives you a little bit more flex with some of those timeframes to do something a bit different. And again, that goes back to that point of not panicking about always having to do the same thing. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about getting the university to notice, and then perhaps me and Rosie can talk about recognising nominees and winners, because they're slightly kind of similar things.
Yep, definitely. So the sections I've got here have moved off the side, but I'm in the top right. Hopefully everyone is able to see all of those. I think a kind of under-recognised role of the award ceremonies, both for student groups and for teaching staff, is to write like a positive story about what the union does. It's one of the very few spaces which is an entirely positive conversation, especially around kind of academic matters. And I think if that's lost, it might not be immediately noticed, but the effects will definitely last for a while afterwards. So have a think about what kind of key figures in the university or other partners that the SU has that you would invite, and make sure they have some kind of similar experience. Maybe they get like a pleasant invite or a nice summary of who has won, or they get to see like the videos afterwards, or even ask them to give a speech online or pre-record it if they were going to do that before. I think we had a couple of questions beforehand about opportunities to showcase student talent, so maybe like performances by groups and so on. I know that there's some videos already doing the rounds created by SUs and by their societies. I think if you can get those in front of kind of senior staff and decision makers in the university, that's a good way to impress them. I would make sure that kind of people who would find out about the awards anyway, but might not now, do find out. So if you're doing your academic awards with this, and say you've had some nominees in chemistry, history, physics, wherever, make sure that you're inviting their department heads, their head of teaching, like whoever looks after those courses, so that they're able to watch their academic colleagues or their professional staff colleagues win things as well, to have that kind of positive story. And make sure that the university comms team is aware of it as well. They're probably desperate for a good news story for their internal comms as well as their external. And yeah, this is definitely one that you can provide. Zooming out a bit, I think, metaphorically, not literally, I think it's going to be a really, really big problem for every students' union in the country over the next few months to basically protect the block grant, to put it in as simple terms as possible. Financial screws are going to be tightened everywhere, and university staff, the further away from the union they are, the more they're likely to see it as a cost where money just disappears, rather than as a valuable part of the university ecosystem. So they will see a static block grant or a cut and block grant. They're not going to connect that to academic quality. They're not going to connect that to student retention. They're not going to connect that to application rates and student satisfaction and so on, unless you make them. You have to make them connect those things. So you want to be framing the block grant not as a cost which can be trimmed, but as an investment, basically the university commissioning the experts, which is the students' union, to deliver societies, clubs, volunteering, events, support, advice, academic representation, which has a return on investment to the university. Obviously, that's a big task, which is going to involve lots and lots of staff, but awards is a really positive way to do that. And I've kind of lost count of how many academic and senior non-academic staff we've had at award ceremonies at unions I've worked in before, and they, like, almost to a person, they say, oh, I had no idea the union did all this stuff. This ceremony was so much more impressive than I expected. So don't pass up those opportunities to impress the right people and to make sure that they understand the true role of the union and how it's important to the university, rather than just how much it costs on a balance sheet.
On that as well, this is an opportunity, because if you're doing an online awards, you've potentially got a much larger guest list than you could have at an in-person event. So a positive is that whereas you potentially only invite sort of heads of or quite senior management because you haven't got enough space in the room, you can put the invitation out to your whole academic staff if you want to. So there's a chance for people who potentially wouldn't get an opportunity to know about the SU to do that. Jonathan from University of Manchester SU has put a good comment in, and I think we were going to go to him, weren't we, Joe?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this Eurovision style thing of handing over to different people. But yeah, so we were going to, I'll ask Jonathan to share some of their thoughts a little later. I'll just finish with some of the things. Do you want to talk about recognition, Rosie?
Which bit we do?
So recognising nominees and winners. So I've put some ideas here about that this is an opportunity for them to really showcase what they've been doing, so that they, you don't have the normal kind of tight itinerary on the night or like limited resources in that way. So it's an opportunity for them to really showcase what they've been doing, and then you can amplify that and collate that for people. So if you've had information from nominees, you could use that visually, or allow people to submit video nominations that you can then reuse to show people and share with people. So yeah, speak to them and see, give them this platform. I think we've lost a couple somewhere, but we also talked about using this as an opportunity to show them as leaders, experts in their field. So maybe you have a week of Q&As from those different groups talking about, the winner of best event, talking about how they did an event, and people kind of sharing ideas. And so yeah, doing that kind of student contact. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Rosie, or are you gonna
just something I'm really conscious of when designing an awards event of any kind is not just to go, this group won, full stop, because only that group and the people who've read that nomination know why they've won. So trying to set the scene, talk about what it was that particularly stood out, and then showcasing in some way, whether and Joe's talked through loads of those different bits. But I've been to so many awards events that you're like, oh, that's amazing, but I don't really know anything about why they've won. Like, I know this one line. So the more you can kind of story tell, that's really helpful. And you don't have to do that all in your event time. You can do that outside of the event time in the context stuff.
Also, the final bits from us are down in the bottom right of the whiteboard, fallen off the side. I'm into it. I always tell people I got so excited when I was doing a big web project and stuck post-it notes all over the wall. Came in the next day and they'd all fallen off. So I feel like this is good. We are replicating offline things where everything goes a bit awry. Also, don't buy cheap post-it notes. That is a false economy. So when we asked you about what you wanted to talk about, a lot of people talked about how do we make sure it's still an exciting event? And I think for a lot of people, it will be anyway, particularly your nominees and winners and their friends. And also, obviously, now Rosie was saying you're not limited on numbers. You can also, people's friends and family from beyond their team are now able to be involved and be part of it, which is nice as well.
Just make sure
local community people. Sorry?
Make sure you mute so you don't get proud mum sobbing into the sound.
I want more proud mums sobbing on the thing. Why not still encourage people to dress up, and they can, everyone can share their photos, or if you're doing a live stream, why not have a dress code where everyone gets dressed up in their fineries? I've seen lots of people doing it schools where they're not able to have their prom, there are still people who are getting all glammed up. So if that's part of your event, you can still have that. And, you know, your students are also really talented. What can they do to help do it? Has your TV station got something cool they could do? Could they make some video packages for you? Do you know, Rosie suggested, you know, that they can design a trophy, you know, talk to your students. They do amazing things, and it really helps that kind of student-led student achievement vibe. If you are doing something like a Zoom call or something that people would have been seeing, particularly if they associate it with their online teaching, which may or may not be a good thing, think of different ways to make it look different. You know, so we had the BAFTA Game Awards were in front of had a screen in the background and kind of dressed up all fancy. Rosie's done Instagram lives with like a glitzy background. So yeah, you know, think of ways as well that it won't feel like an online lecture. And if you are doing anything kind of in real time or when you make any announcements, think about what you've got going out on all your other channels as well. So, you know, look at things like Instagram filters and stickers, or, you know, can you have a hashtag that everyone uses to share when that goes out? You know, if your awards, it normally has like a sit down dinner, maybe you encourage everyone to bring their dinner. Bit weird with time zones potentially, but, you know, you can have that together. So think of, as well as thinking about what you're doing and what you're putting out, think about the experience that your attendees are having, and how you can try and make that communal. Mm-hmm. And, you know, things that we've done before are, you know, that are also directly transferable. So at Sussex, we used to always invite people to submit video clips and photographs, and we'd make cut together a video that kind of shows all the things they've done that year. You can still do that. So, you know, that's an option. And we've also seen student groups doing really creative things themselves, where they're chopping together videos they're making at the moment in isolation to become ensembles. So I've seen a varsity where a hockey team are playing hockey. I've seen a pole fitness society getting ready and getting all glammed up and interacting with each other's video clips. So that's another thing you do. I should say, shameless plug, I'm trying to put together like a nationwide student group one. So I will share the link for that later. Because I think that would be a nice thing to do. And then if you normally have performances, obviously you still have scope to do that to an extent. So you can either use older content that people have done, or video people in, again, pre-recorded or live. And then if you would normally have like physical awards and you think that that is something that you're going to be missing, again, you've got a few different options. So, you know, you could just literally Photoshop people in, and you know, it's fine to kind of point out that it's a bit ridiculous. Maybe you do it deliberately, slightly badly, kind of virtual Zoom background style. Yeah, put everyone in kind of on a red carpet or what have you. And just because we're talking a lot about online, things don't always have to be digital. You can put stuff in the post to people if their post is still working, and they can have something to open, and maybe that's what reveals they've won, and you ask them to video themselves opening that package. Or maybe it's just something that they can then share photos online. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you've got bigger groups, you might need to look at how you do that. Maybe it's just the committee, or maybe it's something they can print. You can also reassure people that they'll get an award at a future date. So if it's not a trophy or something that people keep, if it's one where they get something engraved and it's kind of stays in the building, just reassure them that they can still come and have a team photo with that, or, you know, that is still happening and they will be able to see that in the future, and they just can't have it right now. But maybe you can like send them a little cardboard one that they can pop on their desk in the meantime. And obviously you've got things like certificates, but also, you know, going back to that idea of recognition, have you got a way of showing that's an award-winning group on your website, so that when new students and other students are looking at what groups they can join, you know, can they see which ones are really good at various different things? So I don't know, Andrew or Rosie, if you've got anything else you wanted to say before we invite Jonathan to share
about
plans at Manchester.
Posting stuff. This is potentially a bit harsh, so judge it as you will. But when you enter the London Marathon ballot, you find out whether you've got a place in the marathon by getting a magazine. And your magazine, when you open up the paper on the magazine, it'll be like you're in or you're not. Which every time it's happened to me, it's been you're not. Thank goodness. But something like that would be really interactive, really fun. but potentially a little bit like, oh, for the people who don't get it. But I think most student groups would just find it fun. Most people would find that fun. So kind of being a bit creative like that, it doesn't mean as Joe said, we don't have to do everything online. That was my only point.
That's
I think
great.
that can also be done for people who are nominated, so the shortlist can get something. So whether that's a nice card or something nice in the post, or something else that you send to them. So it's not that they win or lose; it's that they get something, and then they might get a win as well. And I'm sure some comms people have seen that companies like Moo and Vistaprint and so on are all putting on huge sales at the moment to try and get some business. So yeah, if you're able to get past the postal address barrier, then yeah, post stuff to people.
Great. So yeah, Jonathan, you were saying that you've already got some kind of plans underway for things at Manchester. Do you want to unmute yourself and talk us through your thinking so far?
Hello everyone. So in all honesty, I think what Rosie, Joe and Andrew have already said is kind of a lot along the lines of what we're kind of planning at Manchester. We had the kind of, I say, fortunate luxury that we were already planning our awards kind of early March, and we kind of made the call there and then to sort of move them online as we were starting to cancel more events that are happening post Easter. We have 4 awards nights at Manchester, so already quite a large endeavour, and they're split between different departments. So obviously there's a focus on societies; they have their own awards night. Education have their own awards night. Volunteering get their own awards night, and I think the other one is student media as well. So what we've tried to do is work with those teams to kind of help us logistically plan those out, because obviously as a marketing and comms team, we can't feasibly plan 4 different award ceremonies. And I think what we've tried to do is encourage each team, hopefully, to try and come up with their own unique take on what those awards might look like and how they might be delivered. Something that's been interesting as we've been going, because we've been meeting the last few weeks now just to kind of talk about awards, is I think if you would have asked me what the awards look like on Monday, it's actually a difference, and they look completely different today, just because people are still coming up with new ideas. We don't launch our nominations until the 20th of April, and we won't do our awards week until the 8th of June that week. The reason why we did that was because at the moment we're probably like most of you, we're focusing a lot of our comms around community building and that kind of thing. And we wanted the awards to be the culmination of that campaign, to be a sort of celebration of all the stuff that's gone on. And I think we wanted to also be open and honest with students around the fact that it's not been a whole year of activity, that, you know, for most part, they've only had 1 term to really do stuff. So we're going to kind of mention things, you know, we're going to have like little, not necessarily awards, but little nods to what could have been. So we're planning on doing some messaging around that. So the event that could have been, and that kind of thing. So yeah, we're kind of taking it each day as it comes. We've kind of looked at social media and how they will support each awards night, but not necessarily be a direct replica of what's happening at the awards night. Because if we're already encouraging people to just join a live stream, we kind of didn't see the purpose in having social media be an exact replica of the awards night itself, but more acting as a sort of supplement to that. Joe, you mentioned already about having people submit videos when they nominate. So we're including that in our form. And one of the things that we wanted to do was that, again, on our social media, we might play those clips, but we might not play them on the live stream. That might just be more people just announcing the winners. But then equally, post awards, we wanted to kind of highlight them all, because again, we counted how many awards we're giving away, and there's about 92 over the week. And we can't feasibly, like if we ran a graphic on Instagram, for example, you know, stories every day, that would be a nightmare, and it would look awful and terrible, and it wouldn't really make a lot of sense for people. So what we're planning on doing is further celebration of winners post awards night, so that we've got all that content built in, that we can continue to build all of that, like, and use that stuff over the summer, so that hopefully when we eventually want to return back to normality, there's stuff that we're doing around student community, even once students have left. So that was kind of our thinking in that. But I think from my sense, we've kind of realized that we needed to be really flexible with it. and just have a go and sort of be okay with changing an idea once we've already decided on something. Where we've been really strict though is kind of the awards that we're giving away and how many we're giving away, because we need to think about times and how long we can keep people engaged for. But everything else, we've been kind of really flexible. And yeah, at the moment we've got our design teams are mocking stuff up, but we want to kind of make it as student-led as we can, and just on the live stream. So the plan is that officers will be the ones hosting that. We're not quite sure yet how that will look. You know, we kind of, just now on top of my head, I think my team are actually on this, so they might think, shit, Jonathan's giving us work to do now. But we're kind of thinking, like in my head, that there would be one script almost that they would sort of be assigned certain awards that they would all talk about. And again, like Eurovision, kind of pass over to different officers as the night goes. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. It's not, like I say, it's not as, it's probably along the lines of what you're probably all thinking. But just to reiterate the education one, that education awards, we are like trying to be very careful on the messaging on that to make sure we get that right. Just because, I mean, here at Manchester, we know that there might be a section of students that will kick off at the very idea of celebrating teaching when it's been pretty much non-existent this academic year. So we're just being cautious with that. And it's also a joint endeavour with the university, our education awards. So it's making sure that they're equally as involved as much as they want to be. Because again, I think they might worry about getting too involved, that it might look sort of weird on their part, that they're promoting all this wonderful teaching that's happened. But fundamentally, our awards is kind of thinking about celebrating more than just 1 year. It's a culmination of a whole committee's worth of activity or a whole course rep's journey, etc., etc. So it's not just thinking about what did you accomplish in this academic year, but what have you done and what have you accomplished over the course of your time at university. I think that's kind of where we want to take it. So yeah, that's me.
Well, thank you. And I think, you know, also it's worth, and you may be ahead of us on this, but having awards for people the adaptations that people have made, and obviously that's not going to be available to everyone because their activity really doesn't translate, or they don't have the time or the resources. So, you know, you want to be careful with how you do that. But, you know, that's yeah, another option for that. So
can I just pick up on one thing there that Jonathan said?
Go for it.
So you mentioned about how some students wouldn't be happy that teaching's been celebrated at all. I can understand that. It might be worth maybe even working with your academic unions if they're still available. Maybe you could be kind of phrasing and messaging it as you're celebrating the academics rather than the university, because it might be that the students, you know, they're happy for the individual teachers to be nominated for their skills, but they don't want the university to get credit for something that, you know, through strikes or whatever, they have been frustrating the whole time. So yeah, maybe even get your UCU branch involved.
Cool. So that was all that I think we were going to talk about. But I've opened back up the mural whiteboard so that you can now add your own bits. So it'll probably be a bit weird if you all try and do it at the same time. It was a bit weird when 3 of us were doing things earlier. So we're not going to take it down. So it's going to be available indefinitely. So there's no particular rush. But feel free to add things. You can add comments, you can add notes, you can chat in the chat bar. So that will be there. That's a thing for you.
I've made a PDF of the current one as well. So don't worry, everyone, if you like move bits around and it goes a bit skewiff, because we've got a copy of it like as is, and we'll make sure that's available for everybody afterwards.
Awesome.
Would I suggest that people, if they have a question they'd like to kind of get people's answers on, just create that as a text box and get people to put it in. So people have asked in the chat, like, what dates are you doing it on? What actual prizes are you given? So let's create some questions and everyone can just drop in their answers one by one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can add them there, or you can add them over in the chat on murals, probably the easiest place, then everything's all together in one place. But yes, we are around. We are your friendly local freelancers who specialise in student unions. So do feel free to get in touch. we are also available for paid work, particularly in these strange times we find ourselves in. And if you have found any of what we are sharing useful, I've dropped links to our websites on the mural board so that you can go and find out more about us and find out about the marvellous things that we can help you with. And there are also links where you can buy us a virtual coffee. We can have virtually drink it via Zoom if that makes you feel better, or you can just send us a coffee and we'll be very grateful.
Could I ask that if you are starting to put your awards online and you don't mind, please do invite us, because we are clearly keen on this kind of thing and we'd love to listen in and watch and do lots of emojis. So yeah, do invite us. You've got our email addresses on our websites and stuff. So
my final plugs before I hand over to Andrew to talk about the next SU Skills sessions, I have two. One is that next week on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. I even wrote that down and I managed to forget it. I'm having a Zoom chat for any comms and marketing people that just want to share ideas, complain, I don't know, whatever you like. So let me know if you need the details for that. And then I've also dropped a link into my video project, which I've shamelessly stolen from an amazing series on Instagram, which you should go and have a look at. But I'd really like to get student clubs and societies together so that we can do something kind of together nationally that shows all the cool stuff that our groups do. But yeah, I'll hand over to Angie to wrap up.
So yeah, the next two sessions have been scheduled to be one on Wednesday morning with Rosie and people from the Student Volunteer Network and Association of Volunteer Managers. Then the day after that, Thursday at 10, with Peridot Partners, Eve Alcock from Bath and Sarah Ellis from Kiel, talking about how to support your staff. But before we finish here, does anyone have any burning questions they want to ask in front of the group? If so, there's like a raise hand option, like a virtual hand. If you do that, I'll be able to spot you and unmute you and you can ask, or you can unmute yourself and just jump in. So any questions?
I think everyone's just excited over on Mural.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to there. So yeah, keep that mural link because that is going to stay up and it's just going to get more and more detail as people answer those questions, put in the dates of their events, put in what they're doing for prizes and so on and so on. So yeah, please make use of that. And yeah, I'll back up what Joe said about supporting your local friendly freelancer. There's no one furloughing us. Someone just asked how long the mural will be live for. Until the end of the internet, probably. Yeah, thanks Joe and Rosie, and have a great day, everyone.
bye, pals.